Hello, today we're going to go over everything you need to know to participate and complete a Prime War. Right, the first thing you may be asking yourselves is, can you do the Prime Wars solo? Well, the first question you may actually be asking is, what are Prime Wars? But here's the, so we'll answer both those questions real quick. So if we open the map and we zoom out, all right, we can see all of the Prime War locations. And these are all, so you can see we have Ignis Frontier, Winding Ridge Frontier, and these circles here are all Prime Wars. Okay, so what this is an area you can go into and defend a base with a group of players and try and keep it from being taken by a giant, one of the monolith enemies. And if you succeed, you get rewards. Alright, so the normal one most players are going to start with is Winding Ridge Frontier, which says recommended level 25, and as you see, it says Winding Ridge Frontier Easy. Alright, so the first thing you need to know is for each of these levels, we have Easy, Hard, Nightmare, and Pro. But not in the order. Pro comes before Nightmare. Alright, and the only way to be able to gain access to a Hard, Pro, or Nightmare is by getting the maximum number of points possible, which we'll go over all that in just a minute. Alright, so you need to defeat Easy. Once you defeat Easy with 100% completion, then you'll get a card that'll let you go into the Hard War. And then once you get that card from the Hard War, you can go into the Pro War. Once you get the card from the Pro War, you can go into the Nightmare War. Now things start to become a little complicated after that. But can you solo them? Yes and no. You might be able to solo the Easy one. Now keep in mind, these are designed for players of up to 40 people. Right, 10 to 20 is usually what's needed if everybody is properly prepared. If you want to do the Easy one solo, you're going to need a ton of resources and materials, and you're going to need a vehicle that will let you place those in them so that you can transport them, because you're not going to be able to walk there. So one of the first things you're going to need for the Prime War is going to be explosives. One of the best explosives for the Prime War is going to be biomass missiles. Right, it takes steel, stardust, and premium fuel. Another way you can damage the armor of the Great One that's going to show up for the fights is going to be to craft explosives. Besides biomass missiles, you can also craft grenades. And one of the cheapest grenades you're going to be able to craft in the game is the fusion lighter. Alright, so you can be able to craft these up pretty cheaply. You can get these just from having the lighter deviation in your base. Alright, if you don't know how to do that, you can check out the video linked above. It'll show you how to get the fusion lighter. Alright, so you crafted some biomass missiles and some fuel. Now what do you need? Alright, so we'll go into our building inventory here, and we'll show you. Under defense, you're going to be able to craft at least a Gatling Cannons 1. If you can craft a Cannons 2, even better. Alright, well, this is how you're going to fire your biomass missiles. You can't use them unless you have a Gatling Cannon. Alright, so if you're going to initiate the mission and bring other people there, then you're going to need to provide the Gatling Cannons. Sometimes other players will have provided the Gatling Cannons and you can just hop in one and use them. So this is one of those kind of events where you want to make sure you're communicating with people, making sure everything is going to be there that's needed. But make sure you can bring enough stuff to make at least one Gatling Cannon. You can break it down afterwards to get your materials back when you're done. Right, this way you know you'll be able to fire your biomass missiles if you are bringing them. If not, we'll show you some other ways to succeed without those. Alright, some other materials you're going to need to bring with you. You can bring some wood with you so that you can craft defensive walls or wood fences, right? These are not very good. The enemies will just rip through these. So if you're supposed to be building the actual good defenses, you will want to do more than just wooden fences. Alright, but if you're just looking for the points, which we'll go over the point system in a minute, you'll just bring wood with you so you can do wooden fences. What is actually better to do, though, is go into your structures. Alright, for easy, stone foundations are good enough, so just bring some centered bricks. Pretty easy, right? Bricks are easy to make. Yeah, everybody has a ton of gravel if you've been farming for metal. Alright, so you can just bring these and make stone foundations. Right, I know stone foundations may sound silly because your enemies will just walk over them like you can, right, and continue on to the base. But no, your enemies, will, if they're in the pathway, will actually try and fight the stone foundations before continuing on to the base. And you can also turn stone foundations into a wall. Just don't make it too tall, otherwise your teammates won't be able to get past them. Or leave openings around the outside edges so they can get past them. As you can see, we can make a stone foundation tall, right? If you hold down Alt and you use your mouse, you can make it taller or shorter. All right, I would recommend about this height. That way your players can jump over them and nobody's stuck. All right, but if you want to go all the way up with them, just make sure you're leaving a little bit of path around them for players to run around them. At the center of the Prime War, you'll see one of these devices, right? Like you see in your base. If that gets destroyed, you lose. All right, so you want to make sure you're building out around to protect that. But if you're the one building out around to protect it, make sure to use doorways and make exits for people, so that when you're honeycombing around it, you're also leaving ways for players to get out. All right. And keep in mind there, some of the flying enemies can bombard through the roof, so you need to honeycomb in every direction, up and out. So most of the Prime Wars all have phases. All right, and these phases, when the Prime War starts, you have 2 minutes to build as much as you can before it starts. Now, you can build any time before it starts. So if you know it's going to happen or you're going to set one up, you can show up and build beforehand. So in order to succeed in a Prime War, even though you win a Prime War, you may not succeed. All right, to succeed in a Prime War, you have to score a certain amount of points. All right, so when you join a Prime War, you can hit your little tilde symbol there on the left to get the details. It'll pull this up, and this will tell you how many points you can get for everything, okay? And so as you can see, defensive structures could get you up to 1,200 points. Team support could get you up to 800, monster elimination up to 1,500, and vanquisher up to 1,500. So how do you get these points? All right, well, first, damaging the shell or the armor on the boss will give you X number of points, right? If you get 10,000 damage to the boss, you'll get 100 points. Right? If you're using biomass missiles, this is pretty easy to do. You get up to 50,000 damage. You can get up to 200 points this way. You can also use grenades and stuff to get this kind of damage, but it's a lot harder to get up to 10,000 damage with grenades. Although Molotov cocktails will do quite a bit of damage to the shield as well, so you could use those to get some points. Alright, as you keep going and doing more and more damage to the shield, you can get more and more points awarded to you. Alright, so that's one way. Monster elimination is another great way to do it. So under monster elimination, the first thing you're going to see is damage to the boss's body. So once its shield drops, depending on how much damage you deal to the body, depends on how many points you can get. Alright, you can get, and each one of these isn't, this is cumulative, alright, not, oh, you get 100 and then 200 for this. No, it's 100 for each one. It's 100 for each of these and then 200 for these. You can get 400 points by dealing up to 200,000 damage to the boss's body. Keep in mind, with all the players that are participating in this damage, the amount of damage you're going to be able to deal to the boss's body is going to be limited. So the other way to get points is 5 normal or elite enemies pop up. You can immediately get 100 points for that. Right, 20 normal or elite enemies, 200 more points for that. 50 or more, 200 more points. So if you go around killing normal enemies, alright, while you say you don't have the ability to break the shield, you can bring anything with you, you can eliminate enemies and you'll get up to, you can defeat up to, if you can be involved in 50 normal kills, you can gain 600 points. Right, so what about defensive structures? Right, well, if you build structures, they have to take a total of 30,000 damage to get rewarded points for building structures. So you can't just build structures just out in the middle, like this area is huge that you can build in, right? But you can build in an area where the enemies will never go there. So what you want to do is you just want to throw down some wooden structures, like the wooden gate or whatever, right in front of the boss and let them destroy those over and over again. Just make sure you're not blocking your team. And once you've hit this, right, you can get 200, 400, and 600 more points from this. So if you do this and you kill a bunch of enemies, you can pretty much get all the points that you need. You can technically get 1,200 points off of just building structures and letting the enemy destroy the structures. Now under team support, you can use your Stardust Shield Wall to block damage. So if you throw down some Stardust Shield Walls and let them block damage, you'll be able to earn points that way. Heal yourself or others for a total of 1,000 or 5,000 hit points. So if you make sure you come to the Prime War with 5,000 hit points missing, you can then earn 300 points just by healing yourself as soon as the boss spawns, right? If you rescue a player, you gain 100 points for that. And if you do it 5 times, you gain another 100 points. This one's really hard to do. Most players will get themselves up. Right, and then another way of getting points is defeating the enemy in a certain amount of time. So if you can achieve it in 6 minutes, which is really probably hard to do unless you have a really coordinated group, you can earn up to 700 points that way. For the easy event, you have to get 800, I believe, and then the next one's 1,000, and then I think like 1,300. But anyway, whatever it is, you can go in and find it by hitting the table sign. Whatever it is, even if you earn these points but you lose, I don't believe you get the chest. I believe you have to win to get them, unless they've changed that. Or they may change that in the future, it's hard to say. But I believe you have to win to get the rewards. Because they're called winners' rewards. I mean, it's right there in the name. Now, let's say you successfully defeat the Great One during a Prime War, and your base is saved, and it's all good, and you get all of your points, and you have these 3 chests to open at the end. This is going to be very important. Alright? It's not very well stated. These chests go into your inventory like this. Alright, they'll look something like this. These might not be the exact ones. But you'll open them, hit use. Right? And then here, it doesn't really look like a choice. Right? It just looks like, oh, okay. Opens and uses controllers. Cool. And then you hit confirm. That's a mistake. Alright, I made this mistake. It's very easy to do. This is not explained well. These are options to choose between. Alright, these are not just telling you what's going to happen. Alright, if you open directly, you will not use a controller, but your rewards will be attained will be less. This is not good. Alright, you want to use controllers to open it unless you just don't have enough, because you can get some really good rewards from this. Alright, so we'll hit use controller to open, and we'll show you. So see, we got munitions amplifier, we got a legendary mod, and then we got some guns here. And we obtained a... Well, did we just obtain a new... Yeah, sure we did. And we just obtained a new deviation. Alright, so again, if you can, make sure to click the use controller to open to make sure you get the best reward possible. Alright, and then the final chest of the 3 you get will have the card in it that will allow you to participate in harder wars. Alright, and they go on, when you have them, you can check here under this calendar looking symbol, and it will show here Frontier Pass Hard, Frontier Pass Pro, Frontier Pass Nightmare. This will allow you to enter those zones. Another thing to keep in mind with on Prime Wars is that each one has a different set of rewards. Alright, so if I have the ones checked, if I go back and participate in those, I won't really get much for it. But if I go and participate in ones that haven't been checked, so like this is a hard one, even though I've already defeated hard, if I was to go back to Central Frontier and complete this one, I would get a first clear bonus of 1,000 Star Crom. Right, so this is a great way to get a few extra Star Crom is by participating in all of the wars. There are several phases during this boss fight. In the first phase, you have a couple of minutes to build structures wherever you want. And of course, you could build those before the phase begins, but it gives you a small grace period as well to make sure you have everything completed and everyone's in place. Except for Nightmare. It starts without a grace period for build, or at least it did for me. And then phase 2 is the boss appears. And if you ever noticed, in these areas around the Prime War, there's these silver water pools that just floating above ground. They look weird and broken, right? That's where the boss spawns. So that's how you know where it's going to be, and that's how you know where to build to block it in. Right, so the boss will spawn, and then you have to break its shield. Which each boss difficulty has a different amount of shield, I believe. Now, these are best guesses, so these may not be completely accurate, they may not be accurate at all. But based on how many biomass missiles and red plasma missiles they take to take out the shields, this is my best guesstimate of how much health each of the boss's shield has. Right, the easy bosses have 500,000 shield. So it's going to take somewhere between 34 and 40 biomass missiles to break if you're using the Gatling gun number 2. If you're using number 1, it may take upwards of 80. Alright, so the hard boss, it seems like it has between 600 and 900,000 health on its shield. Alright, and then the pro boss seems like it has between 800,000 and 1,300,000 health on its shield. Right, and then when we hit Nightmare mode, you have to use the red plasma missiles. The biomass missiles will not damage the shield on the arms at all. Alright, so you will have to use plasma missiles. My best guesstimate here is that each arm has between 1 million and 2 million health on that shield. So you need a lot of red plasma missiles because they only do 75,000 damage each. And these are best guesses. If you know the exact amount of health each of these bosses have, please let us know in the comments below. It would be very helpful for everybody. Right, while we're on the subject of breaking shields, if you're using the Gatling turret number 2, all right, the biomass missiles will deal 15,000 damage each. Right, always pad in a few extra in case you miss, or if it lags, if the server lags really bad, even if you would have hit, your biomass missile may just delete. So it may just vanish and not do anything. So always bring extra. And then you have the red plasma missiles, which deal 75,000 damage each. These are expensive, they do a lot of damage, and you can only get them if you got lucky and got the correct mimetic card. So once you've broken the boss's shield, you move into phase 3. And now you have 30 seconds before that shield comes back to do as much damage as possible to the boss. Now, if you don't defeat the boss within this 30-second time period, the shield comes back and you start over with phase 2, breaking the shield, and then back into phase 3, dealing damage. And you rinse and repeat these phases until you've got the boss down to something about 30 to 25% hit points left. When it drops down to right before its last bar, you move into phase 4. When fighting a Prime War boss, when they drop down to it's like 25 or 30% health, somewhere in there, you won't be able to do damage to them anymore, and they'll go into an ultimate move. Right, the Ravenous Hunter, the one with the gun on the arm, will fire a big missile into the sky. Right, the missile starts coming down. You all have to focus this missile and kill it as fast as possible. If it reaches the ground, it will destroy the base, and you lose. And then the Shadow Hound, what it does is it burrows into the ground, pops up right by the base, does massive damage to the base and all the structures around it, and clears out almost everything too, depending on how you build. It could clear all the way to the main base thing it needs to hit. Depending on how you have it built, it may just destroy a bunch of structures around it. But then shortly after that, it just starts slamming the structures and the base until it gets in and kills the base. So you only have a few moments to kill the Shadow Hound once it appears by the base. So once it becomes immune, after it's dropped low enough, immediately run for the base. And now for the Shadow Hound, whenever it does bury itself and pops up, sometimes it can get a shield back. So you need to make sure that you have a Gatling gun over by where it's going to pop out at. Not close enough that it will get destroyed when it pops out. You may even need to place it after it pops out and you realize the shield has come back. Then there's the Secret Servitor, and this one is the flying boss with the wings. Unless you're just needing the Star Crown, you probably avoid the battlefields that have the Secret Servitor. This one is the hardest of all the bosses. Unfortunately, I don't have any video to show you of the Secret Servitor. When it drops down to below 25 or 30% health, like the others, it goes into an ultimate move where it splits into 3 of itself and it starts dropping lightning on your base. Alright, so for this one, you're going to want to make sure you've built your base upwards, out and up, right? So that the lightning has lots of structures it has to break through on the way down. So if you realize you're in a Secret Servitor fight and you don't see the building built up very good, make sure you build layers and layers above the main base so that you have a little more time to finish off the Secret Servitor. Alright, so when it splits into 3, you have to figure out which one is the correct one and kill it as fast as possible. 3 of them will swap colors for a little bit between silver and black. Alright, and it'll pop around for a little bit when it stops moving, when the color stops moving, and there's one that's black and the other 2 are silver. The one that's darker is the one you need to kill. Right, so the Nightmare Prime War is a little bit different than the other Prime Wars. It requires red biomass missiles to complete. There's a few issues with the Nightmare Prime War you need to be aware of if you're going to participate in that. Alright, one players need to be able to bring red biomass missiles. If you don't have the ability to craft these, but somebody else does that's going to participate, you may want to bring these supplies along with you that would let you craft those and give it to the player that's using the red plasma missiles. Alright, the way you get red plasma missiles is under Mimetic's Cradle in the 10 out of 10, these mimetic things up here, the specializations. At some point in the higher level ones, there will be an option to possibly choose the red plasma missiles. Alright, not everybody is going to necessarily get that choice since these are kind of random on what you get. So if you were unable to take that and you can't craft them, on a successful run, maybe give some to the players that crafted them and used them for you. Alright, these red biomass missiles are used to defeat the armor around the hands floating in the sky. Alright, once the armor on the hands floating in the sky goes down, immediately focus all fire on those hands. Alright, this works just like the normal event, Right, shoot the flowers for critical damage, and of course to do damage at all. If you don't shoot the flowers, you're only doing like 30 to 40 damage per bullet. So it's not nearly as good. Make sure you focus the flowers. Kill the arms as fast as possible, because during this fight, you're going to have several different enemies, elites, like the monolith bosses, right? Coming down and attacking your base. Now, these will still have the shields, just like all the other ones where you can use the biomass missiles to destroy their shields and kill them. But if you do that, they immediately reset, come back to the field, and start attacking your base again. So it's pointless to kill them. All you want to do is go around slowing them down with the buildings so they can't attack your main base. So the go on the nightmare mode is to just slow down the great ones while the players with the plasma shots are taking out the shields in the arm. Hopefully you have a shot caller who is telling everyone, hey, shields are down, turn and shoot the arms, all right? Hey, or they just say shields down in chat, and you see that, and you turn around and you start shooting the arms, rather than trying to constantly watch the arms to see if the shields are gone. All right, so the idea is to kill the arms as fast as possible, or you will fail. This one is really hard and requires you to have calibration 10 weapons and quite a few players there. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. Have an awesome day.